hey, oh, hey, ah, hey, ha, oh, ho, whoa, he, oh, whoa, he, whoa, he, oh, whoa, he, whoa, he, oh, hey, ah, hey, ha. Oh, hoo, hooey. Oh, see up. Everybody have a great day. Way chachio. Hope che. Oh, see big welcome on behalf of the Squamish Wind Festival. I am honored to be here to share with you today. And I'm going to share a story to you. And the stories that were passed on orally. So in this case, sometimes the stories vary from different angles because, you know, as for stories nowadays, they get changed over time because a lot of our stories that were told may have some missing parts or maybe some added parts. It's because we lost a bit of our language and our culture in the background from all that, and lost our libraries, our elders. So a lot of the stories came through, but maybe there's some details missing. But I'm just going to share what I know and what I've heard. And some of the pieces came from Dominic Charlie, who I used to dance for when I was a little boy, and Moses Billy, who built a race canoe for us, and we used to race out in Howe Sound, and we went to different races around the lower mainland here, as far as, you know, in Olympia State and Cultus Lake and here in Squamish. And yeah, so the people that shared this story, I really raised my hands to them for sharing that with us. So the story I'm going to share with you is to do with Sunakite and Hopokanem, who became Wichita. And there's a time when there was these eerie sounds echoing up and down the Squamish Valley. And this is in the old village of Stopmas. Sometimes people hear it as Squamish. And that's what our elementary school where I went to was called Squamish Elementary School. And when you go out the field, you look at the big mountain, what we call the Big Chief today. And if you look to the right side of that mountain, there's a black line that runs up and down the mountain. And that black line is the Sunakite Trail, what we call the Serpent's Trail. And Shannon Falls as a part of this story also. And what we now call Murren Lake, or it used to be called Brownings Lake when I was growing up. The story comes from when the serpent came around. It was something so big and maybe so small that we can't see it. And it came to our area, and the serpent scared the food source away and scared other things away. So it was an eerie sound echoing. So we're kind of running out of food, so they sent this young man. This young man's name is Hopokanem. And he was just married just recently too, and he was married for a short while, and then the Siam asked him to go out and search for this eerie thing and try to be rid of it. So he agreed he would, so he told his wife that he'd be gone at least 4 days. But as the story went, he was actually gone for 4 years, because he ended up going into a trance. So when he got into this trance, because the serpent wasn't able to be seen, he could only see it with, like, in a dream time. And the serpent appeared in front of him. And the serpent was huge to him when he saw it. They started communicating with one another, but not through words, but through the eyes. The serpent would start teaching Hopakanum how to become a stronger person, and give him all these teachings so that in the end there's going to be a challenge, and that challenge will be to death. The serpent can take Hopakanum's life, or he could take the serpent's life. So over time, he didn't know how long this was going on for. So Hopakanum had to go have some cold river baths. He'd sweat, he'd chant, sing some songs, because where our songs come from is like entering cold water. We make these sounds like hoo 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 hoo. So he's gaining some strength from song, from cleansing himself through the cold river baths. And anything negative on him would wash away into the river or the creeks, wherever he was taking the bath. So eventually Hopakanum, as he was learning from these lessons from the serpent, one point the serpent shared with him is that he needed to make these 4 spears. And these 4 spears were made in a special way. They're made through like pitch, and this pitch was made with some ingredients that was a poison to the serpent himself. And the serpent's given him all these details because he wanted to make the challenge even, because the serpent's so big. So these arrowheads were made out of like a pitch with different ingredients that was poisonous to the serpent. So eventually they would separate, and once they separate, the challenge is on. But what Hopakanum did is he climbed further up the mountain, and it was sort of like a lakey area where the serpent came to rest. So Hopakanum would sit at the edge of this rock, and he'd look down towards where the serpent was resting. And he studied the serpent and watched. And he closed his eyes and he would pray. Look at the serpent again. What's the best strategy? How can I overcome this serpent? So as he's watching, there's a time when one head was resting, the other one's awake of the serpent. One head was on one side of the lake, and the other one's a little further over. So when he saw the right time, Hopakanum ran down the mountain, took his spear, and he would stick one spear in the head, and it would stun that head. Then he'd have to quickly go over to the other side and put another spear in the other head, and it would stun it. Then he would have to put the other spear, have 2 spears in each head, which slayed the serpent, killed the serpent. The serpent would come to rest in the lake there, and over time the body started to decay away, and it would move and slide into the lake. The serpent's bones started to sink to the bottom of the lake. And he was taught by the serpent, if you were able to slay me, where the 2 heads meet, there's this power, this special power you can gain. And so he had to go into the lake and swim down to the serpent, and he saw where that bone was. And he grabbed that bone. And as he grabbed it, he could feel this power. And he started moving, swimming back to the side of the lake, and as soon as he got to the side of the lake, and he was crawling up on the lake there, lake edge, and he overcame this power, and he was collapsed, and he didn't know how long he was out for. He was like in this dream time or whatever. The power overtook him. But as he reawoke, he looked around, and he wanted to see how much power this had. So he saw this mountain goat, and he took this power, and he threw this power over to the goat. It collapsed. It died. So he took this power again, he threw it over it, and he brought it back to life. So what he had learned is that he was able to put something to death, but bring it back to life and give it some healing power to it. So this power that Ho'opokenum gained wasn't to be used in a negative way. It had to be used in a positive way for healing, for growth. So Ho'opokenum now was starting to head home. He realized that he didn't know how long he was gone. He was gone for 4 years. He thought he'd be only gone for 4 days. See, in our culture, everything comes in fours. Our seasons are in 4. Winter, spring, summer, fall. Earth, air, fire, water. Infant, youth, adult, elder. So a lot of things come in 4s, so this is why we use 4s in our ceremonies. And we have this circular form that moves counterclockwise. And that's where we feel and believe our energy goes in this direction. So when we do a ceremony, we go counterclockwise. So as Ho'opokenum carried on, he went home to Squamish. He went to go see his wife, and his wife had remarried because he's been gone for 4 years. And he saw a lot of strange things going on in the village. He didn't like what he saw and heard. So he took this power and he threw it over the village. All the people have collapsed. It's as if they had died. But he took the power and threw it over them again. They came back to life. All the people started coming back together again in cooperation, helping one another. So we learn these lessons from these old stories that we need to carry ourselves in a good way. And it's to remind us that we're always being watched by the Creator, our ancestors, our community, our family, our friends, and ourselves, our own conscience. We're being watched. So we need to carry our name ourselves in a good way. Even the name I carry, Xolak'tan, when I received that name in ceremony from my father, Pakaltan, who carried a hereditary name, who my youngest brother carries it now. Pakaltan is like a chief's name. We didn't use word chiefs. We could say Siyamp. Earlier on, I said that earlier in the story. Siyamp is what we may call like chiefs, hereditary chiefs. So this whole lesson was to teach us to carry ourselves in that good way. And Ho'opokenum became a healer. Just like every individual human being in this earth, we can carry that healing power. We can heal by being beside someone, listening to someone. So it's always good to help one another. And especially in this day and age, we need that now, because the serpent is so big we can't see it, and so small we can't see it. And it's spread around the world. And we're all need to pull together and help one another out. Sometimes we hide behind masks, but this time we have to hide behind a mask in order to keep each other protected. So I hear a lot of things from what's outside, but I also have to listen to what's inside of me, because every individual has that healing power inside. We got that inner strength. We can overcome it as long as we be patient, be kind. So we learn all these even through life. Like when I was younger, I knew everything, but as I get older, I know less. So to the young ones, it's good to hear the voice in the wind. So we listen to the wind, we listen to the water, because water is life. We gotta look after it. We listen to the wind again, like for the air that we breathe, that gives life to us, for us to survive. So the Wind Festival, our hands are up, because we can make this grow. We're all one. We celebrate together as one. So we can just make it a little bit larger, wider, so we can see everything, not just what's in front of us. My hands up for your eyes and your ears, and I hope this story helps you out. And as I leave, before I leave, because these stories that I share with you, these stories could be told in different ways, but the grassroots of the stories are all the same. We're all common, we're all on the same ground here. When I think of Star Wars, may the Force be with you. We learn from Yoda, Lord of the Rings, they all carry the same messages. So that would bring us together and understand one another, that the stories are all the same. We're all human beings. Stomach, we are stomach. We're all human. Thank you again for your ears. Osia. So we have the piece here in the West Vancouver Police Building, and we have the double-headed serpent. We have the two heads of the serpent coming through the whole carving here. And we have the human's faces, which represents Ho'opokanum and Wichita, who became the serpent slayer. Ho'opokanum was his natural name, but when he became a healer, his name was Wichita. And then we have, in between the two heads, is the thunderbird, and you can see the wings overcome the serpent here. So when the serpent is real, it's actually the whole body carries on, but the two heads meet into one body. And we have the canoe here, and the canoe has like a representation of a wolf head, and the wolf head is to represent family. We're all in this together. So we have the canoe, we have the paddles up to symbolize mind, body, spirit. We have eyes on the paddles to remind us we're being watched all the time by our Creator, our ancestors, community, family, friends, and our self, our conscience. Then we have the outline of the bridge. We want to bridge together to learn from one another and become one. And it actually represents like the bridge, what we now call the lions. But today we call it the sisters. And the sisters came together to bring peace with these two nations. So it's like the idea of bridging together and coming together. And we have an eye on top here. Again, I shared the idea about the Kosei. I have color. The representation of the color in the background is a copper oxidation, which symbolizes wealth. We have this wealth of knowledge that we can come together and learn from one another and move forward together as one. And when we talked about mind, body, spirit, sometimes we're weak, whether it's mentally, physically, or spiritually. We have to find that balance. And so if there's somebody weak, we uplift them, we help them, because their strength is our strength. Because if we're in a canoe, we're pulling together, and somebody's not pulling their own weight, we have to uplift them so they can pull their own weight. Right? So this is a lot of teachings behind this. Awesome. So as you're on the Sea to Sky Highway, you're heading north, you're at the base of the Chief, and as you're moving north, you come to the pedestrian overpass, and the image that I have on the concrete cast is a thunderbird, and that thunderbird we're heading in that direction towards Whistler, and we know of Black Tusk, and that's where the Thunderbird would land and perch and create the big winds, so that the wind festival would be awesome. So the Thunderbird would create the winds with his big wings, and then when it made the thundering sounds, when the wings hit together like so, and then lightning came from the eyes blinking. So but as you come back south, you'll see the serpent's head, and the serpent's head is coming back heading south, so that is in the direction of the big chief, to share that where the serpent's trail is. So it's double-headed serpent. And there's, at the base of that sculpture of the cast, you'll see some handprints. Those handprints are done by the children. The children painted their hands and they marked it. So the marking it is just to help continue on passing on the messages to the next generations as time passes. So that's a reminder of that. This piece is tying in with West Vancouver again. It's sort of like bridging the West Vancouver rights and the Squamish Nation together. So that symbolizes the bridge. We also have the Thunderbird. There's the beak, there's the head here. Paddles are up here. And then we have the canoe coming along the whole edge here. And then below it is sort of like a medicinal garden to symbolize healing and growth and nurturing. Then the brick part, representation of a basket, this basket of wealth, and so it just ties it all in back together here. And we're using colors that we use for weaving our baskets. And the bridge, we let it rust, and the rust turns into like earthy color, like we use red ochre, and the red ochre symbolizes protection. So we're all protected. So this is there's quite a long story on this, but just to share a little bit of details on that. Okay, we'll see him.